And hello and welcome to another edition of the College Pride Press podcast. As always, I am your host, Brad Kreppel, and we have a loaded panel here today. We got the best of the best here to recap the NBA draft and all that went on. So, let's hop right into it. We're going to kind of do this in two sections to break it up. It'll be two 45-minute podcasts around, so we'll release them within a couple days of each other. But the first segment, we're going to do instant reactions and kind of go around and see what everyone's thoughts were about the draft and the trades and where their favorite college players landed. So let's start it right off. We'll throw it to Sean and kind of get his intro and instant reactions as we begin here.
All right, so what's up, guys? My name is Sean. Sean Bach. I'm going to be a freshman at University of Iowa next year studying Big J journalism. I was excited to going into the NBA draft to kind of see where these college players would end up, especially after watching them for a whole year and a couple of years prior to that. But, I mean, the draft pretty much went as planned. I mean, obviously the 1, 2, 3 picks were pretty much set in stone. And then there were some teams who have had bad drafts in the past. They finally came around, put together a nice draft class, like the Sacramento Kings, who put together that winning culture already with Justin Jackson, De'Aaron Fox, who else? Frank Mason, and then Harry Giles, guys from the 4 winningest programs in college basketball. So it was nice to see a team like the Kings start putting together a nice draft class. So, I mean, we'll get into some further detail of some other teams who had nice classes, but yeah, that's who I was very intrigued by in this draft.
All right, and Harry Giles and Duke are officially back with Sean pronouncing that. So we'll go next to Ryan, see what's going on with him in a little intro.
Hey guys, Ryan Dahlkamp. Been on the podcast a few times. Going to be a junior at Indiana University, studying accounting. And I am a Bulls fan, so I've had some pretty mixed emotions. I'm still going back and forth on the whole draft, and I still haven't been able to let it all sink in yet, but we will get there eventually, I believe.
I'm pretty sure you still haven't let the fact that Chris Wilkes is going to UCLA sink in, so it may be a little for Ryan to recover. He wears his heart on his sleeve, especially when it comes to things like this. So we'll go to Duncan next. Special guest, we've had him on a few times here, but we'll have him reintroduce himself.
Yeah, Duncan Hensley. I've been on the pod for a couple of times, so glad to be back. My biggest storyline outside of my Hawks officially starting the rebuild, which I was happy with, but I think it's the start of the end of the process. I mean, I think we have a whole new nickname with the Feds. And I'm just excited to see this team in action. Hopefully they can all stay healthy because, I mean, when you have a young nucleus like the Sixers do, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they all get along, especially to start in the weaker Eastern Conference. You know, maybe they're able to fight for that 8th seed or 7th seed. And I would love to see a series with LeBron James going against that nucleus, or if it's the Boston Celtics, anybody. I think that they would be a tough out, and I think we would be remiss to say without mentioning Sam Hinkie and all of his exploits going into the tanking and the paid off here. So that was my biggest storyline, was the beginning of the end of the process and the beginning of the Feds.
Well, Duncan always trusts the process, so it's good to see it through. And finally, we'll wrap it up with our NBA draft analyst, Brett Siegel.
What's going on, CPP listeners? Brett Siegel. My biggest takeaway from draft night was, of course, the freshmen and the freshman class entering the draft and having a pretty good night for the most part. The first 11 picks were all freshmen, with the exception of Frank Ntilikina, who would have been a freshman if he decided to come play college ball, but it wasn't necessary for him. And then the chain just continued through the first round, and it was just a record night for the freshmen in the draft. And I mean, it's just the new way that the draft has been going. 16 freshmen selected in the first round was a new NBA record, and only 2 seniors in the first round. And those are the 2 final picks of the first round. That was the lowest that it's ever been. So the draft has kind of taken a new road, and that'll kind of take us into our first topic of discussion with the whole one and done thing, and if it's good or not for the NBA and for college ball. So I'll give Brad the first look at that one.
Yeah, that's a perfect launch point. I wanted to talk about, the freshmen. You mentioned that 16 freshmen taken in the first round. So my question for Sean is, do you think that this process is working for both sides, both the NBA and college basketball?
Well, I mean, for college basketball fans, it definitely you want to see those guys, those top guys, play for each program and make college basketball, like, keep it competitive at the level that it's been, especially this year. But I mean, for the NBA, you can kind of make a couple. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's tough for the NBA because you got guys. It kind of depends on the player because you can have guys who go overseas, then play a year in the G League or something like that, and skip out on college. With the whole new G League thing, they can start doing that, I think. But skip out on college and then go straight overseas, make a lot of money, then come to the NBA, get a couple scouting looks, maybe grow their stock a little bit. But I mean, as a college fan, I want to keep the one and done thing. I mean, I don't really mind it that much. I like seeing those guys, like I said earlier, come in and play, show what they have, top programs and all that, keep growing their stock. But I mean, yeah, like as a fan, I don't see any reason why they could change it. I mean, maybe they're going to try and look a little bit at it, but I think I don't want to see a difference with it.
Now, I know Duncan and I have discussed this before, but I kind of want to talk about this on the air a little bit. There's been varying talks between Adam Silver and the NBA players. Some GMs want to see the guys for more than 1 year in college, and some guys would prefer if they had their picks right out of high school. What are your thoughts on kind of which way to go if there is going to be a change, or if they should just stay pat?
Yeah, so I initially when I saw that Adam Silver said that the NBA was looking at the one and done rule and kind of evaluating for this two sides. Initially, I was a little angry about it because I just thought I like seeing these guys go to the NBA, go to the NCAA and play in college 1 year, because I think if everyone had their druthers, Lonzo Ball would have been in the draft last year. He would not have played at UCLA this year. I mean, that's just one example, but there's plenty of guys throughout the past decade of college basketball that we've seen the rule that would have just gone straight to the NBA. We would never seen maybe an Anthony Davis and that Kentucky team play, and the ramifications off that would it'd be a lot. But at the end of the day, I think it behooves both sides to kind of let players go to the NBA right away, or if you're there, kind of the college baseball model, and say you're signing up for 3 years. I think that with the evolution of the contracts, with two-way contracts, the NBA is already looking at younger players, and I think it's just inevitable that a change is going to be made. And I think that for the longest time, we didn't get to see LeBron James or Kobe Bryant in college basketball. Was still fine; it still thrived. So I think that if you do see a change where guys can go out of go straight to the NBA, you are going to lose out on some good talent that's just never going to play in the league or play in college basketball. But I think college basketball would still be able to thrive, and we get to know the players a little more, which I think everyone really would enjoy. So I think that it's trending that way, and the 3 year sign up would be the way I would go.
Now I want Ryan to hop in on here. Do you agree that maybe they should do a high school or maybe a 2 or 3 year plan for college? Because it would be better for some freshmen, but I think you might lose a select few. Ben Simmons, Lonzo Ball, Michael Porter. Just a few of the names in recent years that come to mind as guys that would jump right there. But I think the rest of the freshmen, other than guys that would be a top 5, top 10 pick, might opt to do the 2 or 3 years in college. Do you think that's a plan that could work?
Yeah, personally, I think I don't really have a problem with the one and done rule, but I definitely see the downsides. And like Duncan said, if these guys are able to jump straight to the NBA, then I think the talent level in college would drop a bit, and we wouldn't get to see those superstars play in college. But there are honestly very few guys that are ready for the NBA. So I think if they did switch the one and done rule to where it's be, say, 3 years, so which would mean a lot of guys would opt to go to the NBA, I think guys would end up jumping in too early before they're ready, which I think college gives them at least a year or two to develop. But with the whole Adam Silver thing, I know he wants to change it because it's like the perfect example of a negative side of this is the Ben Simmons thing where his LSU was awful, and then after the season was over, he basically just dropped out of college. So it was basically like a waste of LSU's resources for him in a sense. So there's is like you guys were mentioning earlier, there's both sides to everything, and this one we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Now, I kind of want to twist this around for Brett to finish it up. Do you think that all these freshmen being in the first round is good for college basketball, or is it bad for college basketball? Is there's less upperclassmen and guys that have spent more time in college?
I mean, there's always going to be those select few that come in that are either low ranked in the top 100 from ESPN recruiting wise, or just out of it and not really have a big name for themselves. And then they just come through the ranks. And we've seen it year after year. I mean, some of these players, for example, one player in particular, and I'm going back to Duke with another Duke analogy, is Emil Jefferson and Matt Jones. Two guys that weren't really highly ranked in their recruiting, but they're still the seniors that went all 4 years, and even the Plumleys back in the day, the guys that go 4 years, and they're kind of the veterans per se for college basketball. So I don't really think it's a problem with all these freshmen declaring for the draft. I mean, there's always going to be plenty of other newcomers coming in and more people making a name for themselves. So I don't really see that as an issue for college basketball at all.
And one thing, Brad, if I can jump in. Yeah. Well, one thing I was going to say is I think the perfect example of this is we've seen it at Kentucky with different players that have been able to. I mean, at least we get the chance to see these guys. And I referenced Anthony Davis, but if he never goes to Kentucky, you never see the most important event since the 2002 national championship in Indiana basketball, which is the watch shot. So I mean, that's one of the things that out of those permutations that we just don't realize. And I think that there will be some things that you miss out on, but at a certain point, you have to say, if you're only going to go to school for 3 months in the fall, and then right when your team gets knocked out of the tournament, or you don't even make the tournament, you're going to leave. It's kind of making a mockery of the NCAA and what they say they're supposed to do. Now, we might disagree. We might agree to disagree that the NCAA actually is trying to put education first, but I don't think it benefits the NCAA or their message about putting academics above athletics. So I think that, it will benefit the NBA because they get those best players right away, and it will also benefit the NCAA because they can be honest with themselves and say, all right, this is what our mission is, and then we can still see, we can see guys like Christian Watford, or if it's a Tyler Hansbrough, or just wherever in the country, we can get to know them and grow with them, and then by the time they leave, we have that connection with them, rather than spending 5 months with them and then saying goodbye.
Yeah, I totally get that point. Perspective that I look at it is the NCAA may look at it from an academic standpoint, but they're always going to be playing second fiddle to the professional careers of these kids coming in, because the Lonzo Balls and the Ben Simmons coming into college, their only intention is to go one and done anyways. They don't care about the academic part, and they're only worried about playing basketball. So what is the NCAA really getting out of it for a year of them coming? Why can't they just come out of high school at this point? I understand, it's for the viewership and all that, but it just gives other people more of a chance, because if Lonzo Ball's not recruited to UCLA, they're going to use that scholarship to get somebody else that's either lesser than him or whatever. I mean, even if these guys are academically great and they have a 4.0 in their first year, their freshman year, their main focus is still basketball. They're not really going in for the long haul. So there really is no reason that these guys can't declare out of high school, in my opinion.
All right. Any last comments before we move on to our next topic? This has been a great discussion here. All right. So next up, we're going to talk a little bit about Ryan Dahlkamp's favorite Bulls team, the Bulls team that was up 2-0 on the Boston Celtics, the number 1 seed, and was coming home with a chance to get a sweep of the Celtics before everything fell apart. So, now Jimmy Butler is now a Minnesota Timberwolf and is back paired with Tom Thibodeau, and they made this trade on draft night. So let's get Ryan's reactions on the deal and some of the pieces that the Bulls got back for their all-star superstar.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying fire Garpax. We'll lead it off with that. So I've had kind of like a roller coaster of thoughts on this one because realistically, they should have traded Jimmy Butler a year ago, if not 6 months ago, when his value is potentially higher. But so basically, their front office was just sitting with their tails between their legs forever, too afraid to make a move. And then you have Jerry Reinsdorf, who owns the White Sox and the Bulls, and is afraid to have two rebuilding teams. But then they decide to rebuild anyways, and I'm glad they did it because if they had Jimmy Butler, they'd be a 7 or 8 seed every single year in the East and wouldn't get anywhere and still wouldn't have any good draft picks. But looking at this trade in particular, I really like Zach LaVine. I'm really high on him. Obviously, super athletic, as we know. I think he has potential to be an all-star point guard one day if he's able to recover from his ACL injury. And then Chris Dunn, who the Bulls kind of wanted last year. There was rumors that they might trade Jimmy Butler for that pick last year. Had kind of a disappointing year, but I'm still high on him. I really like his potential on the defensive end and maybe be a role-playing point guard. And then with the 7th pick, I was hoping Jonathan Isaac would fall there, but they ended up with Lauri Markkanen from Arizona. And I know Duncan's not a fan, but I really like the potential upside of his offensive game. And I mean, they're going to be rebuilding anyways, so I think he's a nice piece moving forward. In hindsight, maybe they probably shouldn't have given up the 16th pick, but I mean, the 16th pick, if you looked at the last 16 picks in the NBA draft, I would be curious to see how well those guys have been. So I guess we'll see how that all works out. But I mean, it's just frustrating being a Bulls fan with just dealing with how dumb their front office is with the whole Thibodeau thing a couple years ago, and now this. I mean, I've been kind of boycotting them, and I'm just gonna hand it back over to someone else before I start kind of getting emotional.
Boy, it sounds like you've already started getting emotional. All right, Sean, what are your thoughts on this trade? And it's funny how Ryan mentioned between Cameron Payne and Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine, it seems like the Bulls are going to have 3 all-star point guards on the roster, but they don't really have anything else other than a broken down Dwayne Wade. So, Sean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a Chicago Bulls fan from the Chicago suburbs, and it sucks to see Jimmy Butler go because, I mean, the Bulls will claim that they basically raised Jimmy Butler because, he picked late in the first round in the NBA draft, and they blossomed into a top 15, top 10 player in the NBA, which is something that really doesn't happen all the time. And it's really cool to see how he developed and really became the face of Chicago Bulls basketball for the past couple of years, even though it wasn't the most pretty. But, I had no problem really trading Jimmy Butler besides the fact that he was honestly their best player the past couple of years and basically did everything and basically willed them to an NBA playoff this year. But the problem I have is the guys they got in return. I mean, Zach LaVine, Ryan's right. He's a fun guy to watch, very athletic. He's got a decent three-point shot. I mean, he's coming off a torn ACL too, which doesn't really help his cause because, I mean, athleticism, and he doesn't play much defense either, so that would be a big question mark. And then Chris Dunn, obviously the Bulls are very high on him last year and then this year, of course, too. But the thing I don't get with Chris Dunn is I saw a stat today that he has a 43% true shooting percentage, which is absolutely dreadful considering we already have Rajon Rondo, who is butt at shooting. So, I mean, I just don't get the whole point guard thing with the Bulls. I mean, after Derrick Rose, it seems like top, and then we're just taking decline. Doesn't seem like we're coming to the end anytime soon. But I mean, can't go wrong with the Lauri Markkanen pick. He's great offensive player. As Jalen Rose said, one of the best shooters in the draft, if not the best, with Luke Kennard. I mean, I'm with Ryan on this too. I mean, I've been kind of boycotting the Bulls lately, especially this year. Just seeing all these tweets and stuff, how frustrating it is to watch them on a nightly basis. I really have no idea where this rebuild is going, but all you can do is trust the process at this point, which I'm not sure what the process is or anything. So, I have no words. Just got to fire these guys as soon as we can.
All right, Duncan, I know you're not very high on Lauri Markkanen. Why don't you tell us a little bit why?
Yeah, so Lauri Markkanen, obviously, he's 7 foot tall. He's just, tall, lanky white dude that was playing really well with Arizona. And the first time I really watched him was the Texas A&M game early in the year, and he just really impressed me. I liked what I saw, but the more that I watched him, just kind of as the season went on, and as he played more, I felt like he was a good shooter. But if you're 7 foot and you can only shoot the ball, what position do you play? Are you going to be quick enough to handle? A 4, maybe even a 3. Are you going to be big enough to rebound? His offensive rebounding percentage was 10%, which was good enough for 241st in the NCAA, and his defense rebounding percentage was 17.5%, which was 425th in the NCAA, according to KenPom. If you're 7 foot, you have to be rebounding better than the 425th player, in college basketball. I don't care if you shot however many the most threes that a 7 footer has ever shot in college basketball. So, and then on top of that, his defense leaves a little bit to be desired. His block percentage is 1.8, which it's not good. I think a lot of people, are kind of being seduced by he's an Eastern European player. He's tall and they think he's going to be Kristaps Porzingis, but Kristaps Porzingis can protect the rim and he can rebound. And that's something that Lauri Markkanen, he hasn't proven that he can do against the best players. So maybe he develops as a rebounder and learns how to assert himself. And then in this case, I look like an idiot. But unless you really see him make a large change from what you've seen in the past, I don't think that he'll be able to develop and earn that 7th pick. I would have much rather see the Bulls go with a Malik Monk there. But I think that the whole rebuilding kind of went astray when you signed Dwayne Wade, and now you have him last year. So you couldn't sign Dwayne Wade just to go ahead and trade away Jimmy Butler. Doesn't make any sense. So, in that standpoint, I kind of get why they didn't blow up last year. But now you still have to pay $24 million to Dwayne Wade. You're going to have a kind of a weird collection of talent for the team. So, like you guys have previously touched on, I'm not really sure what the direction of the Bulls are right now, and I don't think they know yet. Other than something needed to change, so they went ahead and traded. A top 10 player in the league. I was fine with the trade when I first saw it, but then it creeped out that they gave up that they were swapping picks, and I thought that's. If you need picks, if you're going to rebuild, you can't keep trading them away. And they went ahead and traded the 16th pick, and then they sold their later pick in the draft. Just the direction doesn't seem to be there. So that was, I didn't like the pick, and I don't like the direction that the Bulls are heading right now.
Yeah, I don't think that Markkanen's going to be Spencer Hawes. I think he's going to be something better than that. I think his offensive skill set is extremely impressive, but I do agree his rebounding and defense leaves a ton to be desired. So I think at this point, he's going to be an offensive player, but, a lot of guys have made tons of money being solely offensive players. So I don't think it's a complete wash, but I do think, he really has work to do if he wants to live up to that 7th pick that in this draft that was very deep. Brett gave the grade. If you haven't checked out his draft review on CPP, you really should. He graded the Bulls with a 93 A- for this draft. Why don't you talk a little bit about why you graded them so highly?
Yeah, so I mean, Duncan just touched on pretty much everything about Laurie Markkinen, and Brad added on a little bit. We haven't seen him really be a defensive stopper yet. Hopefully that changes for his sake and for the Bulls' sake. That way the pick turns out really well. But the Bulls ranked 24th last season in three-point shooting, and it really hurt them. Obviously, trading Jimmy Butler, who was their go-to guy, doesn't really help that. But picking up Zach LaVine and Markkinen can really help them because Markkinen, like we mentioned, is a sharpshooter from deep. Some fours, and if he plays the five at times, won't go that far out to guard him. And if they do, maybe he makes a quick jab and can start showing how he can drive to the net as a 7-footer, and then it makes him even more dangerous. But for now, he'll probably be sitting on a wing as a stretch four. And then Zach LaVine, if he comes back healthy, he's a three-point shooter. Don't forget they went out and got Denzel Valentine last year, so he'll probably see a lot more minutes. And they got Paul Zipser too. So there's potential for them to start getting better from deep. And I think that's kind of the direction they want to go. They want to turn into a three-point team that pretty much gets most of its points in transition ball, where they can run the court with Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine. But I mean, I like the trade. I mean, obviously, I don't like them getting rid of a top 15 player, but if they really want to see a rebuild, that's something that you have to do. And getting Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine in return is not terrible, but it's obviously the direction that they want to go. They see something in these two guys that they can build their future with. Chris Dunn has his rookie contract for the next 3 years. Zach LaVine, his contract is up after next year, so they'll most likely sign him to an extension. But they have a lot of cap room to work with. Probably won't use it this year, but I mean, when some of these big free agents come around within the next 2 years, I mean, they got room to work with, and Chicago's a big market, so it should be interesting to see who they target and what they do there.
Yeah, I want Ryan to jump in real quick to finish this up. Campaign, Rajon Rondo, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn. Who's playing point guard for the Bulls this year?
Well, I still to this day do not understand why the Bulls wanted Cameron Payne in that trade last year.
He's a great dancer.
Oh, people forget that. But I mean, out of those guys, I'd like to see a healthy LaVine and Chris Dunn sharing the duties, just because those are the young guys and that's the future, or what we believe is the future of the Bulls. So I'd like to see this year they're not going to be very good, and I can't fathom the whole Dwayne Wade situation, because that's just dumb, and that's Reinsdorf wanting to sell tickets instead of rebuilding last year, but that's beside the point. I just like to see as many of the young guys get as many minutes as they can moving forward.
All right, so we're going to move on here and kind of refocus back on some of the picks that were made during the draft. So we're going to kind of go through a little round table. Give me your favorite pick of the draft. We'll start off with Sean on this one.
My favorite pick of the draft had to be in the second round with Jordan Bell of Oregon going to the Golden State Warriors. I've heard all about this. This is probably a couple of you guys' favorite pick as well. But I mean, what else can you ask if you're a Golden State Warriors fan? He doesn't need to do anything on offense because of all the superstars he's got surrounding him: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. But that's all right because he's a great defender. That's what he excels at, and that's all he'll need to do. And really, the game against Kansas showed just how great he can be and just how well he can fit into that Golden State system, where he doesn't really have to rely on his offensive game to get him minutes. Him and Draymond Green both can switch off, being great defenders, and that would be a great backup for Draymond, especially as the season rolls on and into the playoffs, catch him a few breaths during the games when he's guarding LeBron in the finals for the next, something like that. But I mean, you can't go wrong with this pick. He brings just a lot to the table, and he'll be a steal when in the line, going down the line in a couple years.
All right, we'll go to Ryan next. Who is your favorite pick of the draft?
My favorite pick of the draft is actually also Jordan Bell. And when I had actually wasn't able to watch the first round of the draft, but I got back and I saw the Bulls had a pick coming up, and I was screaming Jordan Bell the 3 picks before, and then they take Jordan Bell, and I was hype, and then they traded him to the Warriors for cash and the richer, as they say. I think Jordan Bell is going to be maybe not in the first year, but I think he could turn into a stud on the bench for the Warriors, and I really like that pick.
All right, Duncan, who is your favorite pick in the draft?
Yeah, so there were a couple different picks. I love the Malik Monk pick. I think that, he's a guy that he ended up falling, but at 11, that's a great value for the Hornets as they kind of look to start their nucleus with Dwight Howard. Good for them. Luke Kennard to the Pistons. I think that's a good pick. I also kind of impartially I like OG Anunoby to the Raptors as well as Terrence Ferguson to the Thunder. But my favorite pick of the draft, it was Chris Boucher out of Oregon, signing a contract with the Golden State Warriors, and to steal that rich get richer line. Literally sent a text to Brad and Dahl. I was like, all right, so when is it going to be announced that the Golden State Warriors have signed Chris Boucher to a contract? And sure enough, was scrolling through Twitter and showed up right there that Chris Boucher was Golden State bound. Chris Boucher, I have a massive man crush on him. He's just a fun guy to watch play the game. He's tall, he's athletic, and he can just cover a lot of ground with his position. I think that he'll be a great addition to the Golden State Warriors once he gets healthy. They're a team that if he can come back and kind of play a role for them off the bench, you kind of see an athletic post presence that can protect the rim and then go out and knock down a tray or two. So I think that I would not be shocked if Chris Boucher is balling out in the finals this time next year.
I'm pretty sure that the Warriors front office just went to KenPom and looked at greatest block percentage. Wow, Oregon's pretty good. Let's get some of those guys. And so they just snag Jordan Bell and Chris Boucher. All right, we're good. We got some.
Yeah, can't go wrong with them. That's for sure.
All right, Brett, who is your favorite pick in the draft? I'll just let you talk about Bam Adebayo here for a few minutes.
Well, my favorite pick of the draft, I have to go with Sean and Ryan on that one. I really like the Jordan Bell pick. Golden State did it again. They got Patty McCaw last year, and he played significant minutes in the playoffs for them, helped them a lot in that second unit. And that's exactly what Jordan Bell's going to do. Like Sean said, he's going to give Draymond a break, and he's actually going to give Kevin Durant a break too, because they won't have to play with Iguodala and Durant on the floor at once because West is in foul trouble and so is Draymond, or somebody's fatigued. They didn't really have that third option down low because JaVale McGee and Zaza can only play 5. So Bell can easily come in and Durant will get a breather too. And it just gives everybody a break on the floor. We all know his skill. We saw him play in Oregon this past year. Great shot blocker, great rebounder, and he was one of the studs of the tournament. So I think it's a real steal at 38 for an already team that's looking at a dynasty right now. And then my second favorite pick was actually Oklahoma City taking Terrence Ferguson at 21. I really like that pick only because they like to play fast. We all know that Russell Westbrook is a one-man team, but Terrence Ferguson, even though he didn't shoot well down in Australia for his club this past season, he's a really good shooter, and he can be a reliable option for Russell Westbrook in transition. He's really quick. He's a really good defender on the perimeter, struggles a little bit inside when he's getting pushed down, but his closeout in the corner on the wing is fantastic. His feet are really quick, and he's got really lengthy arms that disrupts the passing lane. So I think it's a really nice pair to go along with Westbrook. They lost Durant last year. Obviously, Terrence Ferguson's no Kevin Durant, but I think pairing him with Oladipo and Russell Westbrook, I think that's a really nice trio right there.
Wow, you guys are all lame, sticking to the same pick after Sean. I'm gonna go with Dennis Smith Jr. to the Dallas Mavericks. I think he's going to end up being one of the best players in this draft class. There is some off the court issues, but I think he's going to be in a good situation there with the Mavericks. Rick Carlisle is a really good coach. Dirk Nowitzki, obviously at the twilight of his career, but he's still a great leader, and I think he can kind of show Smith the way. And he was a tremendous player at NC State, although his team did not have great success. So I think Dennis Smith Jr. with the 9th pick, that's really going to be a steal, and I think that was a fantastic pick. All right, we're going to flip sides here. We're going to go least favorite pick, And we'll just do real quick rapid fire so we can kind of get through the rest of these. So we'll go to Brett first.
It's Bam Adebayo. That's all I have to say.
There we go. This should be consensus. Bam Adebayo 14 is absolutely ridiculous. All right, Duncan, who's your pick here?
Yeah, so I think Bam Adebayo was also one of my picks that I disagreed with. I mean, but I think I got to go back to the well once again. Lauri Markkanen at 7. I think it was just a little too early for the 7-foot finish player, and I think that the whole move was a poor one. So the combo of the trade as well as the pick gets a big fat F from me.
Boy, you should just kick Ryan while he's down. All right.
I know. I moved to Chicago and I start messing with all these Bulls people. It's probably not a good idea.
All right, Ryan, who's your least favorite pick?
Well, clearly Duncan's been enjoying himself too much at night, but it's not even close. It's Bam Adebayo. He's not a good player, and the pick makes zero sense for the team. I just don't get it.
Well, Ryan, does it make you feel any better that he had more dunks in college than Anthony Davis?
Oh my God.
J-Bill has actually mentioned that in the draft show. He had more dunks than Anthony Davis because that was what made Anthony Davis good. And that's what makes every good basketball player good.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess that's the logic behind the Jimmy Butler trade as well, because Zach LaVine won the dunk contest.
Boom.
So it all makes sense
blown.
now. All right, Sean, who are you going to wrap us up with here?
Well, mine's Bam as well. I mean, I don't see. It doesn't make sense. I mean, him and Hassan Whiteside, they don't complement each other at all. It just
exactly.
Yeah.
Brett was saying earlier that they're going to play well together because Bam can shoot. Apparently,
Bam cannot.
Apparently, the Heat said during their private workout with Bam that he has a mid-range game that was non-existent in Kentucky. I didn't see him shoot one mid-range.
That's fake news.
You know why you didn't
practice?
I don't know.
Did he have anyone?
You know why you didn't see it during Kentucky? It's because it stinks. His mid-range game stinks. Anyone can beat jumpers when they're in a stupid workout. Darko looked great in a workout.
I mean, maybe he was playing his My Player in NBA 2K, and he has a mid-range. I really don't know.
Who develops a mid-range in 2K My Player? It's all three.
Okay, to bring some diversity, it was more of like a question mark than anything because I do like these two players, but the Blazers taking Zach Collins and then coming back around and taking Caleb Swanigan, even though he does go to Purdue, and I have to say Purdue sucks because I'm contractually obligated to do so. Obviously, Caleb Swanigan's a great player, so I'm just kind of confused you got two guys that kind of sort of play the same position. On top of you have Jokic out there, so that was more like an eye raise of everyone's kind of doing space and pace. Unless they really believe that Swanigan's going to be able to further develop that 3-point shot, that was one that was just kind of keep my eye on to see how that develops.
I think they wanted to go with the skinniest player in the draft and then the most obese player in the draft. I think they kind of wanted to even them out there. All right, so we're going to move on. Next one, team you like their picks and moves the most. We know Duncan's going to talk about the Bulls because he loved their moves, but we'll start off with Ryan. Let him kind of get on top here.
Yeah, Sean actually mentioned it earlier. Even though it's a pretty dismal franchise ran by a pretty below average GM, probably one of the worst in the league, actually. I was a big fan of the Kings picks, taking all winning guys from winning programs with Giles, Jackson, De'Aaron Fox, who I really love. I think that was I think he could have been a top 2 pick, honestly. And then they took Frank Mason, who I love. Frank Mason. I don't know. They got those guys, and then they have Buddy Hield. They have a bunch of younger guys like Willie Cauley-Stein, but I think that they bettered themselves. They put themselves in a better position than when they came into the draft.
All right, Duncan, what is the team that you really like their picks?
Yeah, so I'm going out to sunny Los Angeles, and I really liked what the Lakers did. Lonzo Ball is my favorite player in the draft. If I had a big board, he would have been number 1 on it, but he was my favorite player to watch non-IU division all year. So I think that, he's going to be the game-changing player that everyone thinks he's going to be in more. Kyle Kuzma is a good player. He developed well at Utah. I think that was a good pick. I think Josh Hart, while he might not have the highest ceiling, I think he's going to be able to come in right away and give them, even if it's just bench points, some kind of instant offense, just add the ball kind of thing for the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, they took one of my boys, Thomas Bryant, late in the second round, and I think we've talked about it before. I think that Thomas Bryant is going to develop really well. As he becomes more fleet of foot defensively, his shot already developed incredibly well from his freshman to sophomore year. I think that Luke Walton's going to take him under his wing and really be able to develop him. And even if he isn't necessarily the starting center for the next Lakers NBA Finals team, I think he could be a guy that comes off the bench and gives them good minutes, kind of like a Udonis Haslam type guy that's there for like UD has been with the Heat, and really just can provide the energy off the bench, also some rebounding. So the Lakers, I thought, put together a great draft after there was questions raised with Magic Johnson. I think both Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka passed their first test with flying colors. So let's see what they can do in free agency here.
All right, Sean, team that you like their picks the best?
Ever since Dwight Howard left, the Magic have been pretty bad, to say the least. But I think in this one they had a sneaky good draft. They drafted Jonathan Isaac with the sixth. I don't remember which one it was, but I really like Isaac because he's 6'11". He can guard any position, very versatile. He's got a solid offensive game with a promising 3-point stroke. Upside. That seems to be the big word in the NBA draft. But you can't go wrong with Isaac. He's a big man who can, like I said, very versatile, and that's what the NBA has been kind of been lately. Big men who can run the floor and guard multiple positions. So I think he's a good pick for the Magic. And also Wesley Iwundu out of Kansas State, kind of a late bloomer. I think he's a second-round steal. Passes and defends as well as anyone, and he's developing a consistent jumper. So they took a risk on him, but I think in the end he could be a promising role player in the NBA.
All right, before we go to Brett, I'm going to give mine here real quick. It's going to be the Indiana Pacers in honor of Zach Beeler. I had to give them the nod here. The TJ Leaf pick seemed like a pretty good value right there at 18. Good stretch for. I think he can complement Miles Turner very well. And then in the second round, I love their second-round players. Ike Anigbogu from UCLA, young, developing big man. Sky's the limit with him, very athletic, really developing game. And then with the 52nd pick, they got Ed Sumner, who, if he didn't tear his ACL, he would have been a first-round pick. Good point guard, needs to develop his shot a little bit, but he's tall, good point guard with some athleticism. Very rare in today's NBA. I have a feeling I just stole Brett's, but he can go off on it a little bit. I like the Pacers picks, and I hope Zach was happy with them as well.
Yeah, thanks for cutting me off and going in front of me so you could steal my –
I didn't know you were going to take the Pacers.
Yeah, so like Brad, I like the Indiana Pacers too. TJ Leaf is a nice pick for them with Thad Young getting old, and they drafted Niang last year. Leaf will immediately step in, and he'll play on the wing because Niang will most likely transition over to a 3 to kind of fill a void that Paul George is going to leave, although it's not really going to fill a void. It's not going to work around it. And then in the second round, they got Ed Sumner and Ike Anigbogu. And, Anigbogu, there were questions about his knee, I think it was, during the draft. Lots of teams passing up on him, and there were saying that his knees were bad. Didn't be anything about that during the pre-draft process. 7 is for somebody that could have been a late first rounder. Ed Sumner, who could have been a first rounder if he didn't tear his ACL, like Brad said, at 52, he can play both guard positions. And with Jeff Teague and Aaron Brooks both being free agents this year, Indiana may not spend the money for them, and they may just go with Ed Sumner and Joseph Young to be their point guards this year. And if that's the case, Sumner will get a lot of time to work with the core and could really develop nicely into a really nice starting guard in the league for them.
Yeah, I think the Pacers did it really well this year, and their picks weren't very high, but they made the most of them, and they made a few moves as well. All right, next we're gonna throw it to Brett, right back to him, and do a little bit of an international player recap. We really don't like to talk about those guys too much because we're.
You're good. My bad.
Oh, okay.
You're fine.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about the international guys too much with this being a college basketball website, but we do want to mention them a little bit. It was a weak international draft compared to years past, but there were a few players picked in the top, few picks in the first round. So we'll let Brett kind of talk about those guys and where they landed.
Yeah, only two true international prospects taken in the first round with Frank Ntilikina and Anzez Pasecniks with the 25th pick, and he was traded to Philadelphia. But other than that, there were no first-round international prospects, which kind of had me surprised because I thought Isaiah Hartenstein out of Germany was going to be a sure first-rounder, and he fell to the 43rd pick to Houston, which is a steal for them. Will take time to develop, but he's a nice 7', 7'1" guy that will develop more and come into their system in a few years. But the second round was really loaded with international guys. I believe that there were 7 or 8 of them taken. And some of the big names, Jonah Bolden, like we mentioned a few times, he played at UCLA for a year and then left and went to Australia to really polish his game more. And then just some guys at the end of the second round that there was one guy I've never even heard of that the Knicks draft. I don't even know how to say his name. His last name is Jaramaz, but I've never even heard of this guy. Apparently they know something that everybody else does not know about. So Phil Jackson got something right for once. But they were pretty much, them and the 76ers, the only team to really draft multiple international guys. So maybe it's time to start calling the Sixers and the Knicks two new EuroLeague teams in the NBA, because it seems like that they could just have all international guys playing on the floor at once for them now.
That's great. All right, and real quick before we kind of wrap up the first part of our draft recap, we're going to do a little talk about some undrafted players because, with only 2 rounds, there are some players that slip way out of the draft that, don't come to terms with teams about becoming a second-round pick, and they really don't like the fit. So a lot of guys slide and sign their own undrafted picks. So we'll talk about a few of those guys. I know we mentioned Chris Boucher a little bit, so we'll go to Sean, kind of, maybe name a guy or two that you were surprised went undrafted and what's their plan now.
I mean, one that I'm surprised went undrafted that I think could be a solid player is PJ Dozier from South Carolina, guard on the Final Four team. He played very well in the NCAA tournament. And I saw him play a couple times during the year, and I could see him possibly becoming an NBA player, a role player somewhere. I don't know. It depends on him finding the right fit. But, hope for him he can find some place where he could gel and become a solid player, get a chance in the summer league. Where's he playing again in the summer league? Lakers. Who knows? He'll definitely get the primetime games, though, because when they have the Sixers and Lakers matched up on NBA TV with Markelle and Lonzo, he'll definitely he'll get some looks, but maybe he can find a spot somewhere. And then a player I'm not surprised went undrafted, but could possibly blossom into a nice NBA player is Bronson Koenig from Wisconsin, another 4-year guy. Maybe it's the Big Ten luck that he can find a place like Yogi Ferrell did last year, where he can excel and become a solid point guard for a team that is in need of a guard. So there are a couple more that like Nigel Hayes and Cam Oliver, which seems to be the big one. But, I think those two are the ones that stand out in Dozier and Koenig.
All right, we'll go to Ryan. Name a few undrafted players that you were kind of surprised about.
So I don't know if I'm I don't know. Why didn't Jonathan Motley get drafted? I'm honestly curious.
He was the one guy that I was shocked about. Jonathan Motley and Kobe Simmons, too.
There are rumors about his medical history maybe being wrong there.
Okay. Well, then that was kind of one of the bigger ones because I thought for sure he'd be at least a second-round pick. But my far and above biggest shock in the draft, not being drafted, was my pre-draft number 1 overall pick, James Blackman Jr. Best shooter in the draft. Don't
The
forget
best
it.
shooter in the draft.
But I have to say, the Sixers made a very wise decision signing him because first off, I love that because I'm on the Sixers train right now. I think they're going to be awesome. But I think James Blackman, if he can learn to guard that chair that Dan Dockich says he can't guard, I think he can be a decent player in the league just because of his range. But that is my biggest shock in the NBA draft.
Yeah, if you're not even in some people's top 100 boards, you probably shouldn't be tweeting out that you are the best shooter in the draft. Just a word of the wise. He may have been talking about his younger brother, but you never know. You got to clarify that.
Vijay, the walk-on?
No,
Jalen.
Jalen's the best
I know.
one. All right, we'll go to Duncan for some undrafted free agent talk.
Yeah, so one guy that I wasn't surprised, but I felt bad for was Eric Mika from BYU. Early in the year, I fell in love with the Cougars, but I mean, it was a two-big league between them, St. Mary's, and Gonzaga, and unfortunately, they were the ones that were left without a chair at the end of the song. But he was a guy that just kind of filled up the whole machine, and it just didn't end up working out. I think bad choice to begin with for him, but that was a guy that I was disappointed to see subsequently not get drafted. Two other guys, Derek Walton Jr., a guy that came in that really heated up on the biggest stage of the Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament. He's a guy that I think that, a lot like Yogi Ferrell, a guy that's, built short, stocky, built solidly. I think that he can come in and kind of be that can distribute, but can also knock down the three-pointer when left alone. I think that whatever team he ends up with, he could be a nice little bench piece for years to come. And then the other guy that's the most likely to succeed is Kennedy Meeks. I think that Kennedy has a big load inside and would be able to kind of exert his will. So maybe not necessarily play a long time and play for long stretches, but could come in and give you 5 solid minutes in spurts. So I think that Derek Walton Jr. and Kennedy Meeks, in the near future, where they end up in the summer league and then hopefully in the league in the fall.
All right, we'll go to Brett real quick to talk about some undrafted guys.
Yeah, one of the guys that I was really surprised fall out of the second round was Devin Robinson out of Florida. He's a 6'8", small forward wing player that is really athletic, really quick, and I just don't know why he fell out. There's plenty of teams that needed a wing player and plenty of teams that drafted a wing player, but they settled with an international guy that's going to be a project instead of just taking Devin Robinson. It's not like he's that old. He's 22, so I guess that's old in draft years, but he's a really good player. He's athletic. He can run in transition. I never saw him play a whole lot, but apparently he's a good defender. So I just don't understand why he fell out of the first round. Hopefully he'll prove everybody wrong in Summer League and find himself a contract. Then another player that I'm not surprised didn't get drafted, but I think is going to have a nice upside is London Parentes out of Virginia. He did not have a good year, or expectations were obviously too high for him at Virginia. He had a solid year, just not a Malcolm Brogdon-like year from 2 years ago with Virginia. So I think there's a lot of potential with him and a lot still that has not been seen yet. He's a great outside shooter, a little undersized, may not be able to guard too many people in the league, but he can shoot. And in a league that is looking for shooters, he could be a nice bench player coming off in a second unit and getting a team back in the game after being down by 14 or 11 by knocking down 1 or 2 threes, just like that.
Yeah, a few players I want to touch on here. Nigel Hayes was considered a first-round pick after his freshman or sophomore year, after that fantastic year that the Badgers have with Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker leaving. So he had a chance to leave and become a first-round pick and probably a lottery pick, and he turned it down and said he wasn't ready, and now here we are a few years later, and he's an undrafted free agent. Kind of sad to see his development. But he that's the choice that he made, and that's one of the downsides of coming back to school instead of leaving. On kind of the flip side, a player that went undrafted that was completely not even in the realm of the draft circle was Isaiah Briscoe. He came in as, hyped up as the number one point guard in the country, and John Calipari and all that stuff being talked, and he couldn't shoot. You want to talk about James Blackman not being able to guard a chair. Isaiah Briscoe couldn't make a shot if the basket was 5 times as big as it actually is. So, he couldn't shoot, and I think, for all the hyping Calipari does about the guys that do get drafted in the first round, I think he does have to take some heat for the fact that he does have 5 stars come in that aren't, up to the prime time, and it's not really a perfect science getting these guys to the NBA. Isaiah Briscoe was undrafted after his sophomore year. All right, so this is going to be the conclusion of our part 1 of the NBA draft recap. We did a little recapping and did some roundtable stuff. In the next part, we are going to talk about the draft awards that we are going to be giving out that we had our writers vote on. So be sure to check out that. It's going to come out within a couple of days. All right, we'll take a little break. Dalton's loving the Lauri Markkanen pick.
I love it.
He already ordered his jersey.
Oh, I'm not that swift.
I love the Kobe Bryant jersey that they crossed off the Bryant and they crossed off the 4 and they put ball.
Brad, we're still.
I can't wait for Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen is going to be the second exclusive shoe deal with Big Baller brand. You heard it here first.
That's fake. If I was getting any jersey, I'm getting an OG Raptors jersey.
I'm getting like an OG Raptors jersey. I'm getting a Lonzo Lakers jersey. I'm getting a TB Lakers jersey. I might exclusively wear jerseys all next year.
Yeah, but what about a James Blackman Philly jersey?
No, you can't order European jerseys and get them to America. It doesn't work that way.
I still want that Chris Mapps Seville jersey.
No, that jersey is fire.
That needs to happen.
Did you want to keep this running live?
Yeah, I can just cut I'll just cut it in half.
Okay. For the picks, what we'll do is at the bottom of the doc, I wrote the picks that we're going to present. It's like 10.
Oh, at the bottom. I was looking at it. Okay, I didn't see.
Is that cool that we're still live right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It says,
And,
it says 0 viewers.
so what we'll do is
wait, I don't see it at the bottom.
yeah, it's right there. It's under the second portion.
Of which page? Oh, of the.
Oh, I get the shit on BAM. This is going to be awesome.
So what we'll do is we'll say what the award is, read the description for it. We'll say who the nominees are, and then we'll say who gets the award, and then we'll spend like 2-3 minutes just discussing the award.
Okay, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll do our Rookie of the Year prediction. Wait, is Rookie of the Year in there?
That's an award.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's an award, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that at the end, and we'll have everyone give their pick for.
Yeah, we don't have to present it as an award. We'll just go person by person.
Yeah, no, we'll just because you have like Ben Simmons too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Joel Embiid won it this year.
Did they present that yet?
I don't know. I think it was already given to him or something like that.
Oh yeah, Brogdon won that.
Yogi Ferrell was already on the second team all rookie, and he was 2 votes away from losing it to some guy that I've never heard of. But he made
bullshit.
it. Jeez, you're bullshit. Wow.
He had one of the best games as a rookie all year.
Yeah, but that's one.
Yeah, he was only on a team for like 20 games.
Oh, give it a rest. So let me have my.
I'll let you have your moment. Jeez.
I
I can see you're
understand
having your moment with your beautiful camera.
I don't understand how Steve Kerr's not up for Coach of the Year.
Duncan, we're going to a Pacers Bulls games next year, so Lauri Markkanen can light your ass up in person.
I'm in for that.
Lauri Markkanen.
We'll make Big Z be the DD for that one.
Oh, Big Z will be so hype. Big Z texted me the other day, and he's like, "We're destined for mediocrity." He was so pissed.
No, He was so I was like giving him shit for the TJ Leaf pick. He was like, I don't even care, man. Like I'm like just they're like pissing me off with this like Paul George stuff. Like I don't even care right now. I was like, all right.
He wasn't even that pissed when they blew like a 40-point lead against the Cavs. That was that's the most mad I think I've ever seen him. That was he did not add that up. He was pissed. He was like, what the hell? We had such a big lead.
I want to give him shit about it, but then like I can't give people shit about blowing leads like for the rest of my life. So it's a massive L.
Jeez. All right, we're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
good.
halfway through, but we're all good. All right. And welcome to another live edition of the College Pride Press podcast. As always, I am your host, Brad Kruppel, and this is the second part of our two-part NBA draft recap. If you haven't listened to the first one, you should go back and listen to it. We did a roundtable recap where we talked about the one-and-done rule. We talked about the Jimmy Butler trade, and we talked about some of our favorite and least favorite picks. So be sure to go and listen to that. In this second part, we're going to talk about some of the awards that our writers voted on. Some of them are official awards, and some of them we just kind of jokingly put together just to have some fun with it, as we are college students, and that's what we tend to do. So we're going to kind of throw it around, and each person is going to present an award and then announce who's the winner. So we'll go to Brett Siegel first.
So our first award that we decided to give out tonight is the Best Pick Award, and it's pretty straightforward. The Best Pick Award goes to the team and player that will not only fit well for them, but will change their team in a very positive way. And our nominees for this award were Dennis Smith Jr., who was drafted by the Dallas Mavericks with the 9th pick, Malik Monk, who was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets with the 11th pick, and Frank Jackson, who was drafted by the New Orleans Pelicans with the 31st pick. And the votes said that Malik Monk was our best pick of the draft award. And at 11, it really is a steal if you look at it for Charlotte. I mean, he was top 5, top 6 on lots of people's big boards. And to get him at 11, it's pretty much a steal for all those other teams who went out and got point guards instead of Malik Monk, who could very well play behind Kemba Walker for point guard for this team. I mean, they struggled to find anybody else that could put production on the court besides Kemba Walker, and I believe he was out part of the year with a knee injury. I'm not sure about that, but even when he is healthy and he has to take a break, I mean, there's nobody behind him, and Malik Monk can take the role of being that shooter for them on the wing. I mean, Nick Batum really didn't play well for them. Kid Gilchrist still has a lot to prove. They went out and got Dwight Howard, so hopefully he's productive for them. Who really knows what they're going to get with Dwight Howard? But Malik Monk's a shooter. He's reliable. He showed that at Kentucky, dropping multiple 20, 30-point games. And it's just a really nice fit for Charlotte that's trying to get into the playoffs.
All right, I'm going to talk about the worst pick award, and this pick is awarded to the team and player for which the pick made no sense for the philosophy and needs of the team. And the 3 nominees for this award were Bam Adebayo, who's taken to the Miami Heat with the 14th pick, Josh Hart, who went to the Lakers with the 30th pick, and Damian Dotson, who was taken with the 44th pick to the New York Knicks. And the winner was shockingly Bam Adebayo, who received almost 80% of the votes. Horrible pick. We talked about this in the first part. Horrible pick. Don't understand the fit. I don't care if he had more dunks in Kentucky than Anthony Davis. Dunking really does not matter to me. I want to see some offense, shooting, post moves, anything, and he did not show any of it. He was bigger than everyone in college, and he couldn't bully them. I mean, even Julius Randle was bigger than guys in college, and he just bullied them, and that's how he was successful. Bam Adebayo was just like, I'm just going to dunk, and then I'm going to dunk, and I'm going to like flex and get all hyped up because I'm on Kentucky after I dunk. So I don't think he's a lottery pick. I don't think he's a first rounder, to be honest with you. I thought he was going to be the last guy out of the green room. Huge mistake for Pat Riley. I don't know whether he's trying to get LeBron there next year, and LeBron's a big Bam Adebayo guy, but that's the only thing that really makes sense in a world that really doesn't make sense. So next we are going to go to Sean for the award for the best value.
All right, so the best value pick is awarded to a team that drafted a player ranked higher than their pick. For example, the fifth best prospect being drafted by the team with the 15th pick. So the three nominees for this one was Frank Jackson out of Duke, who was drafted by the Pelicans with the 31st overall pick, Semi Ojeleye from SMU, who was selected by the Celtics with the 37th pick, and Jordan Bell of Oregon, who was selected by the Warriors with the 38th pick. And the winner of this award is Jordan Bell from the Warriors with the 38th overall pick. If you guys listened to our roundtable podcast that we had about the NBA draft, you saw me just absolutely adoring Jordan Bell and how much this pick, or how good this pick is for the Warriors, because he can do a little bit of everything. He doesn't need to play much offense, considering the fact they have just a super team, as you can say, on the offensive end, who can do all the scoring. Provide a great backup for Draymond Green as an elite defender, and could possibly become as good a defender as Draymond Green in a couple of years. But as for now, you can't really complain about the pick, because Bell does anything you ask of him, and really he's just a perfect fit for this organization coming off NBA Finals championship.
All right, next we're going to go to the worst fit award, and that one will be presented by Duncan Hensley.
The worst fit award for my first award that I'll give out tonight, it is described as the awarded to a player and team for a pick that makes no sense at all. This player will not mold well with others on the team and was a waste of a pick. I think Brett put that very well, if I do say so myself. I don't think Thomas Jefferson could have done better. But the three nominees were Devon Reed of Miami to the Phoenix Suns at 32 overall, Frank Mason III for the Sacramento Kings at 34 overall from Kansas, Monty Morris from Iowa State University with the Nuggets at 51. The winner of this by 5 votes to 3 was Devon Reed for the – and this was an interesting one to begin with, because a lot of people didn't even have Reed so it was very interesting to see that he was drafted at all, let alone this high, with a fair amount of good players still on the board in that position. So that was voted on, and it'll just be interesting to see, because with a team that has, Tyler Ulis and Devin Booker kind of played very well together, and look like they could be the backcourt of the future for this team. In addition, you have Eric Bledsoe as well. And this just one really makes sense. I mean, he is 6'6", but that's not a 3 in this league unless you're playing really small. So I'm not really sure. I mean, I picked this. I'm not sure what the Suns were looking at with this pick, but it is awarded the worst fit award.
It's kind of surprising, too, because it's not a Kentucky player that the Suns took there. You would have thought that they would have
taken exactly.
Briscoe instead of Devon Reed.
Isaiah Briscoe was on the board there. He was on the board.
I think they were hoping that Bam was going to fall to them there.
They probably were. They were trying to create the Kentucky roster there. They've got the in with Calipari. All right, next we're going to go.
They draft all Kentucky players, and then they hire Calipari. The idea makes so much sense. We can start the rumor mill. Anthony Davis to the Phoenix Suns when he is a free agent. Start it now.
Start it. That's it right there. All right, next we're going to go to Ryan Delkamp for the biggest head scratcher award, and it may be a familiar name.
Well, this one might come as a shock to some of you, but this specific player could basically have won every negative award that we gave out. And that is the biggest head scratcher of the draft, unanimously, Bam Adebayo from the University of Kentucky, a 6-foot undersized center who is going to back up Hassan Whiteside. But yeah, that was the Heat's only pick in the entire draft, and they wasted it on Bam Adebayo. So I just continue to ask myself, why? Why? And that's all I have on that matter.
We don't even need to know who the other nominees were. That it was Bam Adebayo, by a long shot. Great job by Ryan giving us an explanation, presenting that award. He really did a tremendous job. All right, next, I'm going to do the Whoops, We Were on Auto Draft Award, and it's the award to the team that selected the player for no other reason than they were the best available. There may not be a need for this type of player, but the team just decided to play it safe and take the best player available. The 3 nominees for that award were Malik Monk to the Charlotte Hornets at 11, who slid. Jared Allen to the Brooklyn Nets, who many expected to be a lottery pick, and Monte Morris to the Denver Nuggets, who I'm a big fan of and is allergic to turnovers and will continue to be allergic to turnovers in the NBA. The winner of this award was Jared Allen, receiving 60% of the votes. He's going to be great in the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Brooklyn Nets just have literally no one anywhere. So I mean, they had like Sean Kilpatrick was their starting point guard for most of the year when Jeremy Lin was out, which is really saying something. So I think they really should. They should have just left. They were perfectly fine being an auto draft. Sometimes being an auto draft is not very good. This award was given to the Jets for the NFL draft, but we're gonna give it to the Brooklyn Nets because they did a good job being an auto draft. Jared Allen's gonna be a great player for them. I was expecting him to get picked much higher than he actually was. So I think he's going to be pretty good for the Nets. All right, we're going to go to Brett next.
All right, so we'll go back to a more serious award here, and that's the Isaiah Thomas Award. The Isaiah Thomas Award is rewarded to the player that is drafted between 50 and 60 that a lot of teams overlooked and has the potential.
If you look at the Nets right now, they have Jesus and D'Angelo Russell.
Isaiah Thomas was the 60th pick in his draft, and he was one of the best scoring guards this past year. So our nominees for the Isaiah Thomas Award are Edmund Sumner, who was drafted 52 by the Indiana Pacers, and he was drafted by New Orleans and then traded to the Pacers. And then Nigel Williams-Goss, who was drafted 55th overall by Utah, and Jerron Blossomgame, who was selected with the 59th pick to the San Antonio Spurs. And this was really tight. All 3 players have a lot of potential with their teams, but the award goes to Nigel Williams-Goss of the Utah Jazz. And Utah, with a backcourt that may be a little bit broken. I mean, Dante Exum really hasn't come into his own yet, and they may be losing George Hill in free agency. So they have room right there for a solid point guard. And Williams-Goss led Gonzaga to the Final Four this year and to the championship game where they ended up losing. But he was a big, vital piece to their team's success. Doesn't turn the ball over much. He is a great shooter this year, really developed, and I think it's really going to be a nice fit up there in Utah for a team that could use a really solid guard.
Yeah, sorry about that interjection there. Duncan is a little schizophrenic when it comes to talking about the Nets. So he just jumps in there whenever he wants. But all right, we made it to the Isaiah Thomas Award. Somehow we're still rolling here. We're going to go to Sean next for the Biggest Project Award.
All right, so the Biggest Project Award is awarded to a team who drafted a player that has all the potential in the world, but is too young or has not shown the ability to do much yet. They will have their hands full to develop this player for years to come in order to tap into their potential. For example, Thon Maker in 2016. So the 3 nominees for this Biggest Project Award was who else but Bam Adebayo, who was selected 14th by the Heat, Justin Patton, selected by the Timberwolves with the 16th overall pick, and DJ Wilson from the Bucks with the 17th overall pick. And the winner for this one is Justin Patton from the Timberwolves. So from one scholarship offer to a first-round pick, Patton averaged 12 points and 8 rebounds per game at Creighton his freshman season. Really played well with Maurice Watson after all that stuff went down, and really showed versatility out on the perimeter. Shot, I think he was – I remember doing this stat from the draft profiles, but I think it was 8 of 14 from three-point land, if I'm not mistaken, which, I mean, not a lot of three-point attempts, but there's definitely some potential there. It's all about upside with the NBA draft. So I think Justin Patton is perfect for this award. Really can grow into something special. Maybe has to add few more muscle to his frame, but I think he can become a great player in the Timberwolves system.
Yeah, I think Justin Patton could be a really special player. They've got a lot going on in Minnesota, and I think he can be another guy kind of like the big guy from Louisville, the center that they have that only block shots. Brett, his name's escaping me.
Anas Mahmoud.
No. He's on the Timberwolves now.
Onuaku?
All right. Well, I guess we don't know what his name, but Honest Mahmoud, we could say that we're gonna do a special podcast just about Honest, an Honest Mahmoud preview. All right. So next, we're gonna go to Duncan to talk about the greatest impact.
Thankfully, there's no Brooklyn Nets player. We shouldn't have any issues there. The greatest impact award is awarded to a player that will have the greatest impact for his new franchise this upcoming season. Starter come off the bench and give the team huge minutes all season and possibly the perfect example of this was Jaylen Brown this past season. The three players that were nominated for this award were Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics at 3, Luke Kennard of the Detroit Pistons at 12, and Frank Jackson of the New Orleans Pelicans at 31. And in a narrow 5-4 margin, Luke Kennard edged out Jason Tatum for the award. A little Duke on Duke action there. Luke Kennard is going to Stan Van Gundy's new system, and it's kind of wayward. You know, we can give the Chicago Bulls crap for not having a direction. Comes to the Pistons are kind of just in a middling mode, but Luke Kennard is the guy that can lead them. So with the Greatest Impact Award.
All right, and next we're going to go to Ryan for the steal of the draft. No one stole his camera on this one.
Well, I'm still recovering from the Duncan interjection. That had me rolling for a while. But the steal of the draft, as his name's been mentioned quite a bit on the podcast so far tonight. Well, first off, the three candidates for this one were Ike Anigbogu, who was taken by the Pacers with the 47th pick, Dennis Smith Jr., who was taken by the Mavericks at the 9th pick, and the winner of the steal of the draft award was Jordan Bell, who was taken by the Bulls and traded to the Golden State Warriors for cash. We already talked about him earlier. His body's physically ready for the NBA. And he's, as I think Sean mentioned earlier, he's the greatest fit. He fits in really well to what the Warriors are going to do and makes the Warriors even scarier than they already are.
This has been just one big Jordan Bell hype train, and I kind of love it. He tore up the NCAA tournament. He deserves the accolades, and I think he's going to be one of the best players in the second round, Draymond Greenish. All right, and lastly, we're going to go to Brett to talk about the Ben Wallace Award.
Yep, and our final award tonight is the Ben Wallace Best Undrafted Free Agent Award. And this award is awarded to a player that was not selected in the draft but could sign with a team and come into their own. Ben Wallace was one of the best defensive players in the NBA during his time, was not drafted. He turned into an all-NBA defensive player and an all-star candidate. So our Ben Wallace Award winner, or our nominees first, were Cameron Oliver from Nevada, P.J. Dozier from South Carolina, Devin Robinson out of Florida, and then we had another category because there were so many kids that went undrafted here. So our winner of this award was P.J. Dozier by a slim margin over Devin Robinson. And Dozier can play a combo guard slot, and he signed a 2-way contract with the Lakers, so he is with them now, and there isn't any question about whether or not he'll sign with the team because he will be on their roster next season. So, I mean, P.J. Dozier could see a lot of time behind Lonzo Ball in the second unit and maybe see some time at the 2 spot. So I really think it's a nice pick. We mentioned him earlier in our first podcast, and I think it's a really nice pickup for the Lakers.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great. I think he's going to be a really good pickup for the Lakers. A number of great awards that we're going to there are a few that we are not going to present on the podcast, so you'll have to wait for us to post them online. But first, we wanted to throw it back to Duncan because I know he's got some big Nets rant that's been building up within, and he's a big D'Angelo Russell fan to begin with. So are you happy that D'Angelo Russell is moving back into Big Ten country where he really belongs?
Man, the big massive gap that was D'Angelo Russell size, and now it's back. That's really all I wanted to say. Is I just love everyone that passes, and he's got great Snapchat skills. I can't wait to see what he does with the new Snap Map feature. I'm sure it's going to be great. So I can't wait. And Swaggy P is also a free agent now. So I think we need a Swaggy P D'Angelo Russell reunion in Brooklyn.
And from Drake said it best tonight. He said that D'Angelo Russell went to Brooklyn and he joined the TMZ headquarters there. So I think nice
there you go.
There.
It's all meant to be. All right, we're gonna do our pick for the Rookie of the Year, but I want to tease everyone a little bit. Little talk. Does anyone have any thoughts about NBA draft attire? I wanted to do an award for the best suit, but I was turned down by draft analyst Brett Siegel for that award. So, does anyone have any thoughts on the attire or the best hair? I know we really haven't talked that much about Canyon Barry, who managed to get a summer league spot for basically only shooting free throws at Florida. So, any talk there?
Go Big Baller Brand.
Also, good for John Calipari. He's a guy that doesn't really get that much coverage during the year. So, it's good light in the draft because, we really don't talk about him enough among college basketball fans during the season.
I kind of had a comment not really related to the attire, but I made up my own award for best post-draft pick interview, and that clearly goes to OG Anunoby because, man, a few words, he's getting his cheesecake, and that's all that matters.
And he's going to be wearing the short shorts.
And the short shorts, that's key. Look out for him in the 6. # We the North.
I love the one of the fake OG Anunoby accounts was tweeted like moments after the draft, like, "Oh, do I get at Drake's phone number now?" And it was that was quite a moment. Drake and OG are separate and they're very different personalities, but I think they're going to be best of friends, and I can see them tearing up Toronto together. All right, so without further ado, we're going to talk about the Rookie of the Year award, and it's tough to do a poll and kind of get everyone to vote for something that there's really so many players. So we really didn't want to nominate people and then vote from there. So we'll just kind of throw it open and get everyone's pick for Rookie of the Year. We'll start off with Ryan.
Well, my pick for Rookie of the Year, just because he has something to prove, because he's got one very big disbeliever out there. But you heard it here first. The winner of this upcoming Rookie of the Year is Lauri Markkanen, a.k.a. Sean Box lookalike.
Boy, we better learn Tony to
tell us. Shout out Tony.
We gotta learn Tony that he's got a shout out on this podcast. Also, Tony, if you're listening, we gotta have you on the pod this offseason. We gotta have you on the pod. You and Sean, we're gonna talk Lauri Markkanen all day long.
Hey, free Lauri, all right.
Free Lauri.
Free Lauri.
All right, Brett, who's your pick for the Rookie of the Year? And if it's not Harry Giles, I'm going to be disappointed.
Well, you're going to be disappointed in me. It's not Harry Giles. It's actually a guy that wasn't drafted in this draft. I think it's the number one pick from last year. I think Ben Simmons is really going to be the best rookie this year. I mean, it's technically his rookie season since he sat out all of last year with a mysterious foot injury. They probably wanted to trust the process and wait for the feds to come into action. But, I mean, Ben Simmons is great. I mean, there's no other word for that. I mean, time will tell what he'll do in the league, but I really think he's going to be really, really great.
Yeah, people are forgetting that Ben Simmons is kind of on the table there. You know, he didn't play last year, so he's going to be coming back from injury. All right, Sean, who's your pick here?
Well, I just got a text from Jesus and Zeus saying that Lonzo Ball baby is going to be Rookie of the Year. The Big Baller brand is going to blow up this year. Lonzo is going to be absolutely incredible for the Lakers, for the Showtime Lakers, and I'm excited to see the Ball phenomenon continue to grow and grow. And I think Lonzo is going to be pushing it. It's gonna be a great time in LA this season.
All right, follow-up question. Are the Lakers going to make the playoffs as promised by LeVar Ball?
That's a good question. I mean, with Lonzo on your team, anything's possible.
Oh, wow.
You can make Bryce Alford look like an All-American, then so be it.
Wow. All right. That's throwing shade at Bryce Alford and praising Lonzo 0-1. Duncan, we'll go to you for your pick, although we know you're going to be following Ryan with the Laurie pick.
Yeah, I actually think that after crunching the numbers, Josh and the gym, I've decided that Bam Adebayo, Rookie of the Year. No, not the other thing is that we don't. I mean, you were talking about with Ben Simmons. Mr. LeVar Ball never played in the NBA. Technically, a rookie this year. To include in that, he's had a little bit of time since the draft. But I think that he could do it. But I agree when it's Lonzo Ball far and away. I think that he's going to bring the Showtime back with Magic sitting in the Staples Center, and we'll see the Lakers. They'll just miss out on the playoffs this year, I think, but very soon it will be the Lakers again, and Lonzo will be leading the charge with his Zo2s.
Wow, there are a lot of options here. Pick the number one overall pick of this with Markelle Fultz. I think it's going to be between him and Ben Simmons, to be honest. As good as Lonzo Ball is going to be, I think it's going to be Thomas Bryant and Josh Hart that are going to steal the show in LA, and they're going to overshadow Lonzo. So I think it's going to be Markelle Fultz. I think it's going to be between him and Ben Simmons, which is a good thing for the Sixers. And those two can face off against Joel Embiid in the rookie versus sophomore game. All right, so we will kind of go through one more time and final thoughts. Any last rumors, rants, anything else that you want to get in before we wrap it up as we move along here through the postseason, through the off season of college basketball. 137 days until games will be played on college campuses. So we will start with Brett for his closing remarks.
Hopefully Jordan Bell doesn't take Draymond Green's mixed martial arts class this summer and his training there. Hopefully he can steer away from that and just kind of not be another Draymond Green kicking people. Hopefully not, but hopefully he will be Draymond Green, but without kicking people like he did in the playoffs this year. He did a good job. I didn't see him kick anybody, so hopefully Jordan Bell doesn't become that. But overall, I think it's a great draft class. I think this is the best one we've seen in years. I think everybody's going to be blown away by some of these late picks, just blossom in the NBA and surprise everybody. I just don't have words to describe this draft class, in my opinion. I just think it's maybe the best ever when we're all said and done. Yeah,
the lowest grade that Brett gave, we've been giving shit to Bam Adebayo this whole time, and the lowest grade that he gave was to Bam Adebayo B-.
Yeah.
I'd be perfectly fine with that, but that's a discussion for another day. Well, to go off on your martial arts comment, we're all waiting for next year. The Golden State Warriors are gonna trade into the first round of the lottery so they can get Grayson Allen and pair him with Zaza and Draymond Green. They really want the Splash Brothers are no longer a thing. The Splash Brothers are not a thing. It's going to be some sort of Kicking Brothers. We'll come up with a corny name. We've got it. We've
Kicking and Screaming.
Come up with the name. All right. We'll go to Duncan for his closing remarks.
Yeah, and I mean, jumping off what Brett said, this draft is very deep, has a lot of great players, and the NBA, as if it was lacking any talent, more talented. But I mean, I said it earlier, but I am seeing the Lakers play. The more talent they get infused, then maybe a certain LeBron James. Whatever. I mean, the roof is the ceiling, the floor is the ceiling. Whatever Michael Jordan is saying. But I think that the Lakers are going to be, and I think that hopefully we see some TB dunks on the end of beautiful Lonzo Ball passes is what I'm hoping for.
All right, I love it. So go Hoosiers, baby. Hoping for the success of all those Hoosiers that's on to the NBA. Ryan, for your closing remarks.
Someone we haven't really touched on all night is who I thought was a really good pick was Bam Adebayo at 14. I think he'll be could potentially be the actual steal of the draft. But I in all seriousness, I am very excited to watch the Warriors and Cavs in the 4th straight NBA Finals. College basketball greater than the NBA. I'm out.
Hey man, the Sixers.
I just hope that the Cavs get past the Bulls.
The Bulls floor is the Eastern.
On the roster.
The Bulls floor is the Eastern Conference Finals this year. You heard it here first.
It's whether Lord carry them to greatness. All right, Sean, what are your closing remarks?
I've never really been a big NBA guy, but I think this year is finally going to be the year I start watching a little bit. Excited to see all these guys blossom into potential stars in the NBA. As Brett was saying, could be the best draft class ever. So, I mean, I guess we'll see. Time will tell.
Well, my closing remarks, sticking with college. Today it was announced that I and Duke are going to be playing in early December and ACC Challenge. Brad and I are going to be on a podcast, just the two of us arguing about that game Sunday before that. So be sure to mark that on your calendar. And it's going to be a lot of fun for all of us. And I'm picking the Hoosiers right now. Stembley Hall, Archie Miller, it's all going to come together for them. And if Grayson Allen trips someone, I'll be there to witness it all. And I just can't wait for the college basketball season to get started so we can start seeing what these new crop of freshmen looks like and, shape the college season and get ready for the NBA draft all in one. Exciting stuff going on. Our content's going to kind of a little bit here. As a side note, now that we're done with the NBA draft stuff, we're going to move more looking towards season. So we are going to do a top 100 players. We have ranked the top 100 players, had all the writers vote and submit polls. And each day we're going to come out with an article counting down from 100 all the way to all one. So you're going to have to wait to see who the number one we have in college basketball. Be sure to keep an eye on that. We should have one posted every day if all goes according to plan. And also we are going to do some team previews as well as we get further along in the season. So just keep an eye out for that. Thanks to Brett and Ryan and Sean for joining me on this 2-part NBA draft recap. We had a great talk and lots of laughs, and thanks, guys.